So, hey, fans of the Monday Movie Club. This week we conclude the Godfather saga with Mario Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which of course was not what it was called in 1990 when it was released.
But they wanted it
Um,
to be called that.
this was number 929 on the Franken list, so it's still within the 1001 movies I have to watch before I die. So here we are. I am Frank Gaffney, and there's no mafia. It's a social club with us, Joel Zaza, cute, Marcucci.
Markuch.
Essa é uma
Hey,
coisa.
Marcucci, how you
Markuch.
doing?
Hey.
Don Nuffox, if you're out there. And King Godfather. She's the King Godfather. In her kitchen again. All right, here's the plot. Michael Corleone, played
Frank
by
is Italian, America,
I
people.
know. He, as he ages, he finds that being head of the Corleone crime family isn't getting any easier. He wants his family out of the mafia, but the mob kingpin, played by Eli Wallach, isn't eager to let one of the most powerful and wealthy families go legit. That was the description from the interwebs.
You
And
gotta
of
you gotta
course,
find better descriptions from the interwebs.
I know, I'm not making this shit up. And of course, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in,
Yeah.
is what every single person was thinking in 1990 when Francis Ford Coppola decided there should be a Godfather Part 3. Oh, but we were all excited about it, absolutely. Very, and we went to a screening at the Lowe's Astor Plaza, and it was a cold December day, and I must say, everybody who left the theater was disappointed. But there's so much good and so much bad about this movie, good lord. But when Francis decided to re-edit the movie for the 30th anniversary, once again, say it with me, just when we thought we were out, he pulled us back in.
Back in.
And so the biggest change, I mean, really in the film, if I'm right, Joel, let me
Well,
know.
I'll let you know.
Okay. As really the biggest changes are in the beginning and the end. So in the beginning, there's no wishy-washy, leisurely beginning, no reintroduction to the characters, no wasted time. It goes right to the crux of the plot of the Archbishop, which I think in the original doesn't really come until like 30 minutes into
Yeah,
the movie.
it's about 40 minutes in when that meeting actually happens in the
Yeah. So here he put it right up front. You meet the players right up front, and you're fully aware the plot of this movie is going to be this, and the movie starts. And instead of seeing Michael trying to buy his way out of the mortal sin of killing his brother, we see this man trying to legitimately make his business more above board for the sake of his children and his children's children. There were some other scenes that were cut. I think it said like 5 minutes of scenes were cut, but nothing that really alters the plot. But the biggest change now is how the film ends. In 1990, Francis chose a dark ending with Michael dying alone and, of course, holding an orange in Sicily at Don Tomasino's villa. And so it's meant to mirror, obviously, his father's fate. And he falls from the chair, and the little rat dog starts sniffing him, kind of like the little boy in that scene. And but the thing that I think was wrong about that moment was that seeing Michael die, I think is is too convenient, too easy on him. I guess that's what I mean. So now the scene ends with him. It just fades to black, and he's sitting there by himself, which was exactly the ending of part two. That he got to the point where he had alienated everybody and was alone, and he had to live with his loneliness the rest of his life. Okay. I wrote a whole paragraph. I'm skipping now. Like, who cares? All right. So his family is either dead because of him or they have abandoned him, which is a more fitting ending for this man who murdered his mother's son, I feel. Okay, so it is pretty impressive that Francis got a lot of the cast to come back. That Robert Duvall did not come back is a great loss, almost as much as losing Clemenza in part two. The other great loss is that Winona Ryder pulled out of the movie before they started filming, and Francis decided to cast his daughter, Herberber, who now has the distinction of being in all three Godfather movies. Hey. And her performance is a little stilted, for sure, but I think she dubbed some lines, Joel, don't you think?
Oh
Um,
God, yeah.
for the new version,
Yeah.
there might have been a couple of lines that sounded slightly different.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I don't know for sure. So
Yeah, but it definitely sounded to me like
they definitely re-edited or removed certain lines that came off more goofy or stilted
yeah,
in
yeah,
the original
still
cut.
good. Yeah. Okay. But the flaws of the movie are just as pronounced as they were before. The storytelling is sometimes arbitrary, like Joe Mantegna, who, quite frankly, cannot take seriously after The Simpsons. His Joey's style.
This was before that.
Before the Simpsons.
This
I
was
know,
before
but
that.
now watching it now, it's like, oh my gosh, he's just doing his character from The Simpsons. All right. At the beginning, Joey Zaza seems like a minor character, a minor inconvenience, and then all of a sudden he's a kingpin of walking around the San Gennaro Festival. It was weird. And then why would Michael be so against his son being an opera singer and he wants him instead to be a lawyer, obviously to join the family business?
Well, to take over the legitimate part of the family business from George Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not
Yeah.
getting any younger. So.
But it would have been more interesting, I think, if we explored the same thing, the same problems that Michael had with joining the family,
But then
however
it would
many
have just
years
been
ago.
a rehash.
Yes, I agree with Amy.
But with the new perspective of, oh, wait a minute, this was my problem, and now I'm trying to inflict
I
it.
think just like most parents, he wanted his son to have a college degree and something to fall back on.
Yeah, everybody wants to be a performer, and you're like, come on.
I think there was a little bit of homophobia. But the thing that jarred me the most was Al Pacino's choice of a hairstyle. Good Lord.
That was the
Michael would
scariest
have
part.
held on to that slicky Italian hairdo. I'm sorry. Not this blow-dried version that Al Pacino was. Andy Garcia had the right hair.
Oh God, he looks so good.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
just so you know, I believe the original stylist quit.
Oh really?
Over the hairdo.
Yeah, over the hairdo.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gross.
Wow.
Forget it. All right, so I did write some observation. This obviously these movies make me talk a lot. Okay, how did Father Guido Sarducci get a part in this movie?
I only saw what's his name? Martin Scorsese's mom at some point.
Yes.
Oh, Catherine. Yeah,
Well,
don't get me.
here's the thing, Mark. When we say Father Guido Sarducci, you're looking for Father Guido Sarducci and not looking for actor Don Novella, who plays Father Guido Sarducci. So he looks completely different from
Yeah,
what we were
he
expecting.
would never.
Who was he in this?
He was the other guy
Right in
who
the
was
beginning.
always walking around with Michael and George Hamilton and Vinny at the various meetings. He was always in the background.
And he was on Saturday Night Live playing Father Guido Sarducci.
Right.
Okay. And Andy Garcia immediately gives off sunny vibes. Absolutely.
A little crazy, yeah.
Interesting side note about Anthony, the son. Frank D'Ambrosio, who plays Anthony, has been living with Brian Boitano the last 20 years.
Wow.
What would Brian Boitano do?
Skater? Figure skater?
Yeah.
He was featured prominently in South Park.
Yeah.
What would
Brian
Brian Boitano do if he were here right now?
Which we'll be seeing later this year.
I bet he'd kick an ass or two.
Because as soon as I saw Frank, I went, this is a homosexual man. Okay. And
Wait,
Eli
what
Wallach
time?
plays another character we've never seen before. All of a sudden, he's a big shot guy. There's so many awkward scenes in this movie. And then the line came up just when I thought. I mean, that's probably the most famous line of the whole trilogy.
That was such a big line when
I'm gonna
somebody
make
came
I'm gonna
out.
make you an offer you can't refuse. It's
Yeah.
gotta be.
Right,
Yeah.
but right up there with
This
that
is
one.
right
Sure.
there, number two.
Sure. I have it in my notes, but I'll say it right now that I had a friend. This is my first time watching this movie, and I've been saying that quote for decades because I had a friend that would always do that line to me. So yeah, it's definitely out there.
Oh yeah, I have lines that I got from Amy that I never watched Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um, and then oh my
I know,
God,
Joel. I know. Joel, come with me.
Yeah.
You need to. Yeah.
and how contrived was it? Oh my God, it's his diabetes. Did we hear at any point that he was diabetic?
That
And
was
he
that was
died, he
bad.
was doing
Yeah.
that a little overly dramatically. I was
Did
like,
he shoot himself with a needle? No, nothing. We never, that was the first moment. Oh my God, it's his diabetes. Like, we need some reason to get him in the hospital.
Yeah.
I didn't write it in the script anytime before this, but let's give it diabetes. Okay. Um, and then it was a little like Marsha and Greg when Vinny and Mary started kissing. I'm like, oh, the cousins.
I don't understand the whole point of that part of the script. I mean, why would he write that? It was just weird to me.
First cousins, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I made out with my first cousin. Of course, everybody does. But here it was just a little. Okay. And then the San Gennaro Festival echoes of Fanucci in the second movie. But it seemed like this movie was constantly trading on the things from the other two movies. Seemed a little desperate to me. And from this moment on, you are Vincent Corleone. And it legitimizes him, but then it also signals Michael is jumping back in because he knows what Vinny's gonna do. He knows. All right. And then the ending on the stairs, the very end of the movie, a little overwrought, but not as much as it seemed in 1990. All right, but here we get to experience probably one of the last moments of Francis's filmmaking expertise. That whole scene with the opera assassination sequence is so beautifully done.
But
So,
like what we were saying before, it's a rehash to me. I thought it was so much better in the last movie with the baptism.
yeah, yeah,
First
yeah.
movie.
Yeah,
You didn't need to see it again. And this time it just seemed so much longer.
right. It definitely was longer.
That's what she said.
And then
Joke will never get old.
Lori thought that was
Thank you.
funny. And then what? Let's can we please unpack that last title card? And a Sicilian never forgets. What is that supposed to mean?
They hold grudges.
But why at the end of the movie? What's the point of that? All right. Anyway. All right. 3 cannoli for me. The changes do make a difference, but still not enough to make it a worthy conclusion for me. As I said before, we got to the same conclusion in 1990 when Michael was left alone with his loneliness for the rest of his life. Godfather Part 3 was always an extended coda to what is arguably the greatest epic saga in the history of American cinema. First 2 Godfather films speak to us as few other movies do. They are great American opera of family, crime, love, loss, corruption, power, and tragedy. Look, I'm an author. Oh, but the Oscars didn't mind because it got 7 Oscar nominations: Best Picture, Director Andy Garcia, Original Song Promise Me You'll Remember. I forgot it already. When was that? When was that song? Who sang that song?
Doesn't
Is-
matter. I just saw the movie 3 different times, and I couldn't tell you where the fucking song was.
Is it
Oh,
an
okay.
instrumental or is it sung?
It's I think it's sung. It's definitely not the song Al Martino was singing at the beginning of the
No,
movie.
no,
No, we know
Is
that.
it the song his son sings to him? Says that I learned it.
No, the son sings with Italian words to the
And
speech.
just you know, those subtitled Italian lyrics only appear in the coda. They're not subtitled in any of the other cuts of the film.
Okay.
I thought that was weird.
I guess people got bored by the Italian.
Because I sat there going, if they're going to subtitle this, are they subtitling the entire opera at the end of the movie?
Right.
Ah, okay. All right. So original song, art direction, cinematography, and film editing. It won 0 awards. 0.
It was also on Siskel and Ebert's both of theirs 10 best lists for the year.
Yeah, and it also must have been a bad year for movies. But
Of course, Dances with Wolves, Goodfellas,
Goodfellas.
horrible year for movies.
but Joel, you made it. Not my thought right out of my
Yay, I did it.
head. All right. So all right. Well, Joel, you go next now. That's the punishment.
That's for who? Me or you?
You.
Oh, okay.
Look at all the food and drink we have.
All right. So I had
You
seen.
watched all 3 versions.
Well,
The original
hang on a
1990
second.
version.
Whoa! Am I talking
Yeah, seriously.
punishment, or are
I'm-
you
I'm-
talking for me as punishment?
I'm trying to edit.
Oh, that's not happening.
And this is the guy. This is the guy who gave me an angry face when I said that the man who won't shut up, whatever the hell that movie was, is really about you.
Right.
That documentary that's out. The man who what's the name of the damn thing? The man who can't keep quiet.
The man who can't. Oh,
It's a documentary about Frank
Yes.
Gaffney.
Hey, if I kept quiet, these videos would be 10 minutes long.
anyway, I saw
Well.
this film when it came out in the theaters, obviously.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote a review
I
for
see
it.
the boxes up there in the background.
Yep, the 4K box is there.
Oh, that's
I did write a review for it for my college paper.
nice.
I was looking for it and I can't find it, so I'll attach it later when I do.
Can you paraphrase it for us?
No, because then it'll give away what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Um,
Well, hang on.
So anyway, the theatrical version of the film has not been available to watch since it was released in theaters, because what came out on home video a year later was Francis Ford Coppola's director's cut, and that's what it was called in 1991.
Right.
So the only version that's been available to watch since 1991 was his director's cut, which is 9 minutes longer than the theatrical cut. And it was just a few years ago where he created this new coda version, because that's what he always considered it to be, as a coda. He always wanted to call it, as Mark said, the death of Michael Corleone, and Paramount didn't want him doing that because Paramount looks to the future and says, at some point, we're going to make another one, because that's what we do.
Right.
And I'm sure that as soon as he dies, they will figure that out, even though they've spent the time between 2 and 3 trying to figure out how to do it without Puzo and Coppola, and failed miserably. There were at least a dozen scripts written to get to that point. I have one of them in my library, and it's just weird. It involves the CIA and Anthony being a mole, and it's just all over the place. But anyway, so the differences between the theatrical cut and the director's cut are minimal at best. It's really just 9 minutes longer. Some of the scenes that have been added actually work. Some of them are kind of like, a bit repetitive. The coda, as Frank said earlier, is very different. It does change the opening of the film. Part of it works, part of it doesn't. I actually liked the original version. Starts with footage of the Nevada compound in disarray and being abandoned, with Michael speaking over it. I like the footage. I don't know that we necessarily needed Michael speaking over it. You do get some of that letter that he's writing to his kids anyway in the coda, but I like that connection that's there. Dropping the entire ceremony at the church where Michael's getting the award from the Archbishop and the Vatican, it's irrelevant. It gets covered in everything else. Moving the meeting with the Archbishop to earlier in the film as being the first thing, I think works very well, because it does delineate and tell you exactly what he's trying to do up front. And between that and the party, you get reintroduced to everybody pretty quickly with what's going on. The rest of the film, most of the scenes that were added for the original director's cut are still there. They removed a couple of repetitive ones. The one that I think they removed that they shouldn't have involve when Michael's in the hospital. Connie and Vincent and Al Neary are actually in the hospital's chapel discussing Vincent going after Joey Zaza and getting rid of him. So that whole conversation later that, I got the go ahead from Al Neary, you actually see that. And it's I think that's a scene that actually would have worked had they kept it in there.
I agree, because
Agreed.
then the audience thinks he's just lying.
Yes, and I did. I
Yeah.
agreed. Yes.
But there's a scene where Don Altobello comes to visit in the hospital, and it's the same bullshit, of I don't want you to, you have to lead the family and you have to give us all money. It's just bullshit. The rest of the film, it's essentially the same film up until the end, and I actually don't like the ending of this film. I think that you get the idea from the original version where we see Mary die on the steps of the opera house, and then we fade to this. Yeah, who cares? The movie's 30 years old. You've either seen
35.
it or you're not going to see it.
Yeah.
And then we get this quick montage of Michael and Mary dancing, which then goes into Michael and Apollonia dancing, which then goes into Michael and Kay dancing. And you see that and you get that feeling of, where he's come from again. And then we fade into the old Michael sitting in the outside in the house in Sicily, where he actually dies. And you can tell from all that he's spent all that time from Mary's death to his own alone. That you get that feel from it. And I think that's a more powerful ending than we're going to fade to black and give you some vague Sicilian, thing. And I think that was a bit of a misstep. What I will say is that having seen all three versions, this is what I've come to. This is what I've decided about the film. When it came out in 1990, most of the critics that didn't like the film were looking at what it wasn't and not what it was, because there are a lot of good parts about it. For those of you in modern day, it rings a lot like the rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of flaws in it. And it's the ending you're getting that you have to deal with. The people that have seen the coda and are claiming it's a better film than the original film, I am betting that they saw the film in 1990, decided that they didn't like it because of what it wasn't, never saw it again, and then have seen it now recently and been like, oh, it's a much better movie. It's the same fucking film. It's got a better beginning that's edited and a worse ending. And that's where we leave it. It does not live up to the first two films, but it is not a horrible film by any stretch of the imagination.
Hey, I gave it 3 stars.
I am going to go a bit higher than that, only because I think if when he's dead, somebody could re-edit the film into something a bit more cohesive with all of the good parts and none of the bad parts.
This is why we have a 3-hour version of Clue.
Yes. So I'm actually going to get 3.25. So
I already wrote that.
okay. Then I'm changing it to 3.5.
Yeah.
Hey, no, you're not.
Wait,
Okay. All right. So, King Godfather with the red hair. Now you've seen all 3 of them before, right?
I have. Yeah.
But this is your first time seeing this re-edited 50th anniversary, blah, blah,
No, I think this is the only one I've seen.
blah. Okay.
I did not see the theatrical release.
Oh, okay.
Well, had you seen this on home video before 2020?
No.
Okay.
No. Oh, okay. So
No, I just saw it like a few months back recently.
For the first time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So did you watch it again this week, or you were like, I saw
Yeah,
it.
no, I have to. I can't remember stuff if I don't watch it. And I can't watch it on a early part of I can't watch it right after this meeting because then I'll totally forget by the next meeting. So
That's why you take notes.
no, I'm still learning how to do that. It's very hard to watch a movie and take notes. Although this one,
Pause. Yeah. Pause.
constant pause.
yeah. Although this one I probably could have because there was a lot of slow parts, I felt. So, to me, I mean, I was wondering who wrote it,
Yeah,
Like,
I was like, wasn't Mario Puzo dead by this point? No, he wasn't.
no. So I was surprised that, he came back for more, um, and to do more. Yeah, I guess so.
Cash cow.
Right. And um, I guess that's something like totally new, not from the book, and you had to go in some direction. I wondered if he always had an idea, if there was ever going to be something more.
Yes, Coppola had said for years that the only way he'd do The Godfather Part 3 is if it was Abbott and Costello meet The Godfather.
Yeah.
He had no interest in it whatsoever until he needed money.
Well, but I think he said that too way back then as well. Or if I needed the money.
Yeah.
How do you lose that much money? I know I read it that he lost some money on one some animated movie or something like that. But I mean, you would think he'd have enough saved up at that point.
You have to realize that Coppola is constantly he owned his own production company and he would constantly put his own money into his own
So,
films.
so did George Lucas, and look at how well he's done.
Yes, but the problem is that George Lucas was making something for the masses and Francis Ford Coppola was making something for Francis Ford Coppola most of the time.
Gotcha. Sorry,
Yeah.
Annie.
Nope, that's all good. And I thought a lot of it was kind of over the top, um, seemed a little forced kind of acting and
That's
stuff,
mostly Italians are.
Huh?
What?
That's most Italians are.
Yeah.
Hey.
Over the top, like Sly.
Oh,
Yeah. And like Mark had said earlier, it felt a lot like they were taking parts from the first two movies. Did you say that? Like they were,
Nope. But I'll
I
take the
said
credit.
that. And
maybe Frank
yeah,
said, yeah, like, like
yeah.
with the San Gennaro Festival and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is very deja vu-ish and stuff like that. So,
So you're saying it's a Franken movie.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the callbacks. I thought that was fine.
yeah, just felt like a lot of, the same that we've seen. So it was okay. I would give it 3 stars. It was fine as a movie, but definitely when you watch 1 and 2 and 3 all together, it doesn't hold up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we
But
all agree
like
on that.
Joel, like exactly what you said, people are saying what it wasn't as opposed to what it was.
Yeah.
And that would be a perfect way to lead into Amy's review.
I don't really have anything to say because I didn't take notes.
Okay, next.
I thought she was going to say because she didn't watch it. Yeah.
No, I definitely watched it because I had never seen it before.
Never seen it before. Okay.
So
No.
2 years ago, when you finally watched The Godfather, you just did 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did, speaking of Ganol, I'll tell you right now, I'll give it the same 3 Ganol as you guys did.
Canola.
But Ganol. When What's His Nuts was eating it in the theater, I was like, this is like a 30-minute long cannoli over
Yeah.
here. He ate it
Why is he not dead
outside the
yet? You know he's
theater
gonna die.
in the
Yeah.
lobby,
I think
waited to
You
get
know,
into
you know how many times
waited
I've
for the
said that?
show to start, huh?
You know how many times I've said that to people? You're going to get a 30-minute long cannoli.
It was a box of 6.
Yeah,
Yes.
you whole eats more than one at a time.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And I appreciated though him giving it to Connie first to make her.
And her pretending to bite it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's yum.
But she took some of the
She
cream. I
definitely
think
licked
the
it.
poison
Yeah.
was in the shell.
But
Yeah.
It was in the shell.
she's probably immune to any poison after, so many years of being such a hateful shrew about, Michael having killed her husband.
Right. And speaking of which, and
And her
speaking
brother.
of what you were saying before about the hair, what was with Diane Keaton's horrible curly hair? I mean, that was just an awful
You look
hair.
like Katharine Hepburn to me.
I can see that.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Sure.
That's what they're
And she hated him the first time we saw him and hated everything. And then the next time she saw him, she was ready to get back with him, even though she was still married. I didn't get any of that. That seemed a little
Yeah. How convenient the husband couldn't go to Sicily.
right.
Eh.
Sure. So anyway, I have nothing else to say. It was fine. I don't need to see it again, but maybe I would. Three Ganol.
I think again, if you're watching it, being the completist like Joel is, of course you have to see what Francis intended for this one.
I think I would have preferred actually the director's cut.
9 minutes longer.
it's
Raccoon.
yeah.
No picture.
No, and I'll start off by saying that I am definitely guilty of listening to other people. I had never seen this before. Along with Rocky 5, which I actually own, I've owned it for 20 years. I've not watched either because I heard about how bad they were. And I was very pleasantly surprised by this movie. So I'm actually going to go ahead and watch Rocky 5 this week to
I
see
had
if it's
told you
better.
when I watched the entire Rocky series, 5 was not that terrible.
Yeah.
I know, but
Not
again, it's in my
as
burned
good.
in my head.
Yeah.
Just, Rocky 5 is another movie I reviewed for my college paper, and I got in trouble for a comment. So
But
What was your comment?
Frank, you're totally frozen, by the way. Go ahead.
it was that Adrian got so annoying. I was hoping that Rocky would knock her out, but
Oh.
yeah, I would never make that comment today. And when I got called on it, I was like, well, my editor left it in.
Nice.
I didn't know how much streaming.
I did take some notes. I'll start by saying Mary got real creepy with her cousin there, and I did not know that the way this movie was going to go. So I didn't know that they were going to actually fall in love. But as a guy who has six first cousins, five of them being women, I don't remember ever sitting around being like, "Who wants a piece?" Like this. Who just that was creepy, flirty with that the way that it was done. And she was also much better than I expected, just like the movie. I had heard how bad Sofia Coppola was. To me, I've seen much worse acting. That was not horrible to me. Not she again, but she's also in a movie with great actors, so she's not going to look the best.
And it's also she's not an actor, and this is the first thing she had ever done acting wise. So
Yeah. Well, no, the first two movies.
yeah, the actual acting, not just being on camera, but and
Yeah, but
Have you ever seen a baby get baptized better than her? Come on, it's
thankfully
genius.
she had it didn't none of the complaints bothered her because she looked at it as like I'm not an actor, so I'm not
It was
gonna
a yeah.
let it get to me.
I don't care that it bothered her or not. More importantly, it bothered me. But here's the thing: I'm sure there were plenty of other actresses who could have done a better job. She
And
just chose to cast his
here's the
daughter.
thing is we don't know the specifics behind how he eventually got to her because it's not like Winona Ryder dropped out and he's like, oh, Sophia, jump in. It was they
No,
went
that's exactly
there were
what
a
I thought.
lot of people that they tried to get before they got there. So
I
anyway,
want to know who.
Okay,
okay.
I'm going. Uh, and the same thing. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. We already talked about that. I did not see Mary's death and Michael living based on the name of it. It should be called the Death of Mary Corleone. Um, but I thought his death of natural causes alone as an old man was fitting. I did enjoy that. Um, I do have to admit, though, that I needed to read the wiki plot synopsis to understand everything that I had watched because I was a little bit
Oh
lost
yeah.
in the Vatican and this. It definitely needs a rewatch, but after 3 weeks of mafia movies, I'm out. I'm out. They're dead
Not
to me.
only that, I'm also up to episode 9 of The Offer.
The
So I'm like,
offer.
oh fucking
I,
mafia.
I I can't watch that for at least a year. But I will rewatch it maybe in a year or two, just to get it done. And as an aside, Eli Wallach, aka Altobello, is absolutely adorable in The Holiday with Kate Winslet. If you haven't watched it, I recommend it. 3.25 cannoli for me. Much better than I expected.
I forgot to say I
Okay.
loved at the end how the word wasn't dedicated, but I can't remember it. It was dedicated to What's His Nuts Bluedorn, who I'm watching nonstop every day in The Offer. I was
Fun.
like, oh, now I know that name.
Is it his name? Charlie? Charles?
Charlie,
Blumen?
yeah.
Charles Bluedon, yeah.
All right. Are we done?
We're done. What's next week, Frank?
All three Godfather movies are available on Paramount Plus. Uh, okay. Next week, we're not done with Italians
Oh,
because next week Mark picked the remake of his
ooh,
2003's Italian Job,
nice.
another Italian. Also on Paramount Plus. We're doing all Paramount Plus movies this year. That's it. All right, that's it. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go on.
Go eat a cannoli.
Go eat a cannoli. And also with a U.
Hey!